Have you ever met a brilliant person? Somebody who is impressive, somebody who is extremely intelligent, somebody who takes a formula and breaks it down in seconds, somebody who is wonderful with words, somebody who takes a puzzle and you're struggling with the puzzle for days, and in 2 seconds they see the pattern and they put it together. Brilliant people are wonderful to be around. They are geniuses. They excite us. They inspire us. They move us. And if you are one of those brilliant people in the sanctuary, let's just give our applause to the brilliant people who are around us. So Jesus is speaking to this crowd. And when it says a large crowd, usually there were about 10,000 people around Jesus. And in the middle of this crowd of 10,000 people, two brothers who are having a family dispute, the younger brother comes to Jesus asking about inheritance. You know those kind of things that happen when your parent or loved one dies, then the land issues and the property issues and the savings account issues and who gets the gold and who gets the coal and all those things kick in. Well, this was a typical family, and the brother asked Jesus about inheritance, and Jesus doesn't answer him directly. But indirectly, he tells this parable which is applicable in the context of a younger brother coveting what was not his from his older brother, but even beyond that, to all human beings. Jesus tells this story about a farmer who had tremendous abundance. This is a man who we would admire. He puts his crops in the ground and the crops do well. And over a lifetime, his little becomes great and his great becomes greater, and eventually he has abundance. He is a symbol of success. He is somebody who has, through a combination of skill and luck and fortune, experienced blessings and abundance. I don't know if you've ever been around somebody who success is just flowing from them. When you're in their presence, you can feel success. You feel it's happening and it's moving and it's multiplying. It is fabulous when your land produces plentifully. It is wonderful when your business prospers. It is fantastic to get a promotion at your job with a large pay increase. It is out of this world when your investments hit a certain value because they have increased. This parable does not say doing well is evil. The man is not called a fool for being productive, because God knows we need productive and successful and financially strong individuals. The man, however, has some challenges. Maybe if he were a contemporary man, he would have read Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. Anybody ever saw that book, The Total Money Makeover? If you're not doing well financially, it's one of the books you should check out. Or maybe he read a book by Larry Burkett called Debt-Free Living. If you get rid of your debt, your life, your health, your wealth, everything becomes better. Or maybe he had read Mary Hunt's The Smart Woman's Guide to Planning for Retirement. Or there is this contemporary book which everybody is excited about, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Or maybe he was an old school person and had gone back to a book which since 1926 has offered a guide to strength and prosperity for ranges of people. A book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Anybody know that book? It's a wonderful old classic by a man named George Clason. Or maybe he had simply read the Hebrew text, which says, honor God with the first fruits of your increase. Give God the best. Give God first before you do anything else. And as you honor God, all kinds of things in your life will fall into place. Maybe this man who had prospered and had this abundance and was going to build a bigger barn had a budget and a plan. Maybe he reduces debt and increases saving. Maybe he understood the simple formula of 10% to God, 20% savings, and live off 70. It doesn't matter whether you have little money or a lot of money, the formula is the same. This man had a game plan. And can I suggest to you and to myself this morning, if you have no game plan, you experience no victory. So I want to know this morning, what is your financial plan? What is your plan to live well as God would have you to do? The dilemma for Christianity, and especially for black Christianity in America, is why are we the servants of the living God? Why are we the ones who trust in God, and yet in terms of our wealth is decreasing and we are more indebted? Maybe this man understood that to be successful, you have to get out of bed early. Have you ever seen somebody who, when the rooster crows, some of you may not know what a rooster is, but I grew up with a rooster, and when that rooster said cock-a-doodle-doo, you had to get up. It was time to go. Met a woman, a wonderful woman on the Habitat site who told me that in New York City, roosters are banned. You can't have a rooster in your backyard. But I remember at home when that rooster flapped himself up and he crowed, it was time to get up. Time to feed the pigs. Time to feed the chickens. Time to feed the rabbits. Time to gather whatever it was you had to do your chores before you went to school or to work. I'm suspicious about anybody who says I want to do well and they're sleeping at 1 o'clock. This man was a goal setter and a daily goal getter. Do you know that every day you have to design your schedule for the day, and at the end of the day you have to be able to evaluate and say, how did I do? This man was tremendous. He knew how to get the job done. He refused to take no for an answer. He lived with intensity. Have you been around somebody and you're playing, whether you're playing soccer with them or you're running with them, and they just take it up a notch? Have you ever seen somebody whose energy level just rises? If you take anything in life up a notch, if you take your praying up a notch, if you take your fasting up a notch, if you take your work up a notch, all kinds of vital and significant things start to happen in your life. For years, I believe this, because this is what they told me in chemistry class, that water is converted into steam at 100 degrees Celsius. Remember that? For years, I'm going about telling everybody, just get it to 100 degrees Celsius and you'll get steam. Do you know that these scientists, looking on the formation of clouds, have discovered that that's not the only way to get steam? That if you put sunlight and certain particles into a body of water, even if it's at 50 degrees Celsius, you're going to produce these voluminous clouds in the air. I think those were brilliant people. I like my little steam thing that they taught me. You know, when you're in the kitchen cooking and all of a sudden you feel the pot huffing? Have you ever put the cover on and the pot just tilts? Something is about to boil and something is about to roar. And I'm suggesting to somebody here this day that if you put a little more into your life, much more will come out of it. This man with the barn had done things that most of us would want to do, but the scripture says that when Jesus looked on him, Jesus called him a fool. Now, in any language, in any culture, in any country, a fool is fighting words. Jesus says this man lives for himself. He talks to himself. He plans for himself. If you notice the first set of verses, 9 times the man says, I, my, and myself. May I suggest to you that there are 5 mistakes this man made. He firstly thought it was about him and his self and his own well-being. Wonderful, beautiful people living in the world who still think this is all about me. And it exists not just out in the world, but it exists among the people of God. I want church for me. I want prayer for me. I want blessings for me. Me. Give me some more, so I'll be satisfied. The second mistake the man made was that in building a bigger barn, he thought that his satisfaction was the only reason and purpose for living. Thirdly, he forgot to give thanks to God and to give God the glory. He does not recognize who has blessed him, who is the source of health and wealth and strength, who is the source of abundance and healing and providence and wisdom and knowledge. He forgets that it belongs with God, and without God there is nothing. Can I suggest to many of us in this room is that sometimes on our journey we forget that except for the goodness and the providence and the grace of God, we would not have made it. You see, he spends all this time praising himself and thinking, my calculations have been perfect. I followed the formula well, and now I am going to just sit and chill and eat and have a good time. He made the mistake of not looking around him. Because whenever God blesses you, your bounty and my bounty is not for me. My bounty and my blessings is so that I can be a blessing to somebody else. He never heard that the scripture is all about sharing and giving away what God gives you. If you pray to God for wealth, pray to God also for the wisdom that when wealth comes to you, you will give it so that others will be blessed and enriched. Let me say to somebody this morning, if you say to God, God, if I were to have $1 million, then I would start giving. You're not going to give it. If you can't give $1, and share the minimum you have, it doesn't matter how many multiples of $1 you have, you will always be self-centered and self-focused. The man in this story did not understand that we're here just for a time, a little bit, and then we're gone. Sometimes when you realize you're just here for a short time, it changes your perspective. It changes your direction. From a worldly perspective, this farmer had managed quite well, but from a moral and spiritual perspective, he had mismanaged his abundance. It doesn't matter how much dollars you have. God's formula is always the same. Honor God. Give to God and let God use you as his instrument in the world. And your soul will find its place in desiring God, because God can intervene at any time. Many stories in our lives, we know when we planned it, when we organized it, when we figured it out and things were supposed to go in a certain way. It was lining up exactly the way we wanted it, and then God intervened and God interrupted the plans of the farmer, took him that night, and he was called a fool. God says in his word in Psalm 14:1 and Psalm 53:1, the fool says in their heart, there is no God. A fool is one who does not include God in their plans. And so can I say to many of us, whether we are contemplating buying a piece of property, making a business decision, purchasing another vehicle, acquiring something else, whether we're contemplating doing more for ourselves, just remember that as you plan, it's not just about your plans. The plans of the sovereign God who made heaven and earth and who gives you life and strength ought to be the ones that direct your life and journey. Being rich towards God is having our hearts drawn towards God and his work. The new thing that has happened in churches, when God invites us to give our time, our talent, and our treasure, Christians have begun substituting. I give my time, I volunteer in my ministry, so I don't give any money. because I've given my time and my talent. Or I give my money, so don't ask me for any time and talent. God measures wealth for all of us, not by one element, but by the whole. And can I suggest to you, I met a man this week who last year we had a discussion. We had a discussion about what he was going to really give to honor God for all the wonderful things that God has done. And he made up his mind that he was going to rise, he was going to climb, he was going to give beyond what he had ever done. A year later, he gets audited by New York State. New York State audits him for his charitable contributions. They're reviewing what he's given over time, and they realize that this number has stepped up. He brings in all his documents, and everything is in place. And do you know that as he honored God, God blessed him even more. Some of us in this room are thinking that if I do a calculation and I limit what I give to God, my life is going to be better. No, it won't. It's when you give to God and honor God and give your best to God that your life, your finances, everything gets better. How can I be rich towards God? Should be the question. We're rich towards God when our income and our finances are focused on making sure that we support the work of God, the cause of God, and God's plan for his kingdom. Can I say to you, if you are mean to your church, your likelihood is that you're mean to other people. Generous people in church, usually their generosity expands to other people. Being rich towards God is being willing to recognize that all that I am and all that I have belongs to God, and my whole future is about making sure God is pleased with what I offer. Being rich towards God is being ready to leave everything behind at a moment's notice. What would you do when your moment comes? Are you ready to leave it behind? Leo Tolstoy tells the story about a farmer who was not satisfied with his lot. This farmer had desire. This farmer wanted more. And one day he received a special offer, a rather unique offer. Here was the offer. For a small sum of money, he could buy all the land he could walk around in a single day. Sounds reasonable, right? The only catch to the deal was that he had to be back at the starting point at sundown. Well, this man started out in the morning. He started out walking, but then he picked up his pace. Have you ever seen those walkers and they're really walking? And he walked east and he walked further east. He walked as far as he could walk. Midday came and he was still going east until when the sun came out and it was really hot. It occurred to him when his tiredness came on that maybe I should return back to where I started, but he wanted more land, so he kept going. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he decided he was going to go back to where he started, and he starts walking fast. And then the sun is going down, and he realizes with the sun going down that he had better pick up the pace. Have you ever seen those people who walk and they start to jog? And then eventually he started to run, and the sun was heading down. And when the sun was going down, he realized that his land was at risk, and so he started to run. He never run that fast in all his life. He's going at full speed. He gets to this finish line. His heart pounding. His breath almost gone. With every bit of strength left in his body, he staggers across the line as the sun disappeared. And then he collapsed and died. Afterwards, his friends dug a grave for him. This was the land he got, 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. Jesus says, what will a man or a woman give in exchange for their soul? Can I ask you this morning, are you rich or are you a fool?